Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and part 2 of my space themed cupcake toppers. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make the rocket. In part 1 I showed you how to make the sun and moon, and in part 3 I showed you how to make the UFO, and in part 4 I showed you how to make the shooting stars. Okay, so just before I begin, if you want to know how I made the sparkly fondant discs, then that is in part 1 tutorial, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. Okay then, so to begin with, I've got some pale grey modelling paste. I'm using all the same colours in this set to make it easier. This is the graphite grey, and I've got a small piece and I'm just rolling it into a tube that's narrow at one end. I've not done weights for these because it all depends on the size of your disc that you're working with, so it's just best just to keep checking that it will fit on your disc. So as you can see here, I've narrowed it at one end, and at the wider end I'm making flatter, and now the narrow end I'm making flatter. So again, just keep checking it on your disc that it fits, bearing in mind that you've got some extra bits to put on the top and the bottom. Okay, so once I'm happy with that, I'm going to add a little bit of red at the top. So here's my small ball of red modelling paste. So there you see I'm checking that it will fit onto the disc okay. And I'm just going to add a little bit of clear alcohol, or you could use an edible glue if you prefer, just to stick that ball onto the narrow end of my tube. And there we go. And now all I'm going to do is just, once it's secured, is just gently shape that into a point on the top of my rocket. Don't forget to check out the description where I talk about the modelling paste I use and all the paste I use to achieve all the different colours, and links to them so you can take a closer look later. So you can see here that I'm just gently pulling down the bottom of the red just to create a nice join there between the red and the silver paste, and then also making the top of the red all pointed for the rocket. So now I've got a darker grey bit of paste, and I'm just going to add this to the bottom of the rocket. So I had a small ball which I flattened, and I'm just going to attach it to the bottom of the rocket with some clear alcohol. So it's about the same width as the bottom, and then again I'm just going to shape it with my fingers, making sure that it's securely attached. So now that it's secure, I'm just going to roll it with the pressure on the bottom there, and that will make the join more flush and also taper in the grey a little bit so we've got a bit more shape for the rocket. So now I'm just going to stick that rocket into position on the disc. You can see I've put it more to the top, so I've got a little bit of gap at the bottom to add the fire later. And then once you've stuck it into position and it's secure, then you can further shape if you want to, make the red a bit more pointed, and just keep going until you get the shape you want. So once I'm happy with the shape, I'm just going to use the smaller end of my ball tool just to press in there, make a hole for the window. And there we go. If it distorts, just use your fingers just to push it back into shape again. Okay. So now I'm just adding a small ball of blue modelling paste into that hole we've just made for the window, secure with my fingers. And now I'm using the bone tool again just to create a little hole in the bottom of the rocket so we can put the fire in there and it looks like it's coming from inside the rocket. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to make the fins, and I've got some red modelling paste that I rolled out to about 4mm thick. And I'm just going to use a circle cutter just to cut out a circle shape, and you want it quite thick so it looks more 3D on your rocket. So now I'm going to use the same circle cutter just to cut out about a third of the circle away. And if you find you have any rough edges, you could just neaten them off with a dry brush. And there we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this in half, so I've got my two fins. Now obviously these are too wide, so I'm just going to bring my rocket in to gauge where I need to cut it. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off there, and then make sure I do the same for the other side, ensuring that they are the same size. If you do like this tutorial, please do give it a thumbs up as it really helps my channel. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm just going to stick these fins into position. And now I'm going to do the other one. So just make sure they're in the same position on both sides. And then if they need any extra shaping, you can do that once they're stuck down. Okay, so now we're going to make the fire, and I've got some red, orange and yellow modelling paste, and I'm just forming them into these tiny teardrop shapes. I'm going to make a few of them before sticking them into position. So firstly, I'm going to stick some onto the blue disc, and then I can put some into the little hole we made above it, and that will give you this nice 3D effect. So there they are just on the disc. I'm just going to secure them and shape them with a dry brush. So now I'm going to do the second layer, and you can see this is actually inside the rocket with the hole we made earlier. So we're getting a nice 3D effect, and you can shape it as you like. I've just had a little bit of clear alcohol inside the little hole we made before I popped the flames in. And you can see you can then just shape it with your dry brush into any way that you like. So I'm just going to carry on adding the flames until I'm happy. So now I'm just going to add a little bit of trim around the window. So I've just got a small piece of the darker grey modelling paste, form it into a tube, and then I'm just using my cake smoother just to get a nice thin, even kind of tubey strip there. I mean, you don't have to do this if you don't want, it's up to you. So once I'm happy with the width of my tube, I'm just going to stick it around the edge of the window. Okay, so I've just applied a little bit of clear alcohol around the edge of the window, and now I'm just going to stick the strip all around using a dry brush to help guide it. And once you're happy that you've got it in the right place, you can just secure with your finger. Just need a little bit more glue there. So once you've gone all the way around, just get some scissors and just trim away the extra piece. And there we go. And then you can just smooth over the join with a dry brush. So lastly, I decided to add a little yellow star, so I rolled out some yellow modelling paste quite thinly, and then I just used my star plunger cutter just to push down, move it around to make sure there's no rough edges. If you want, you could always get a brush and just go over the edges with the brush to make sure it's nice and clear, and then you just push your plunger down and out will pop your star. So then I'm just going to stick that into position with some clear alcohol on the front of the rocket. Okay, so that is your rocket cupcake topper made. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Please do check out my other ones. Please comment, like and subscribe for more, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.